No, it's just something I don't like boasting about. I
Well,
volunteer.
we're not boasting. It's an interview.
so
You're
there we go.
boasting on your vision and everything else.
I think
you
one of the
boasted on
things-
the millions of dollars that you made. So let's just throw it out. So in
I
sixth
actually
grade, I'll give
didn't.
you an example. I'll help you out. And
Who do I care? Connecting people with policy. Before we begin, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you're notified whenever I post a new video. And follow me on social media. Y'all know I always have to take sips because my mouth always dry because I be talking too much. Okay, so today's video, we are going to watch Vivek Ramaswamy. He is a presidential candidate for the GOP. I think he's polling 3rd or 4th right now. He's actually doing pretty well. He was on the Breakfast Club. I already watched this video, but I want to do a reaction on it so that y'all get my thought process in the middle of it. We're not going to watch the whole thing. There's a certain point that I want y'all to see with the interaction that he had with him, and I believe her name is Tess, on the Breakfast Club, that I feel like was very, very interesting to say the least. Personal thoughts on Vivek. Me, I'm a registered Democrat. Y'all know, even though I'm a registered Democrat, I'd be so quick to call out a lot of other Democrats because part of the reason why I'm changing my registration to independent, hopefully. But my personal thoughts on Vivek Ramaswamy, I feel like, number one, he's very, very intelligent, very, very smart. I like how he talks very, like, without trying to create a divide. You can tell he actually wants to listen to what other people say. But if I were to vote for anybody on the Republican Party, he would not be my first choice, mainly because of his policy regarding the raising of the voting age to 25. I think that his other policies aren't even that bad, to be honest. That one is just like a deal breaker for me. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think voting should be, some people see voting as a privilege. I see it as a right. I think it should be easily accessible. I don't think that we should make it more harder than what it is for someone to cast their ballot. And just raising the age to 25 and to have requirements if you want to vote prior to 25 and to pass the civic test. And from my personal research that I was doing on him, it just doesn't click for me. That's just something I can't, like, I just can't foresee. But with candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, he is somebody that I would love to, like, sit down with and just have a pure conversation with. I think it is very smart that a lot of candidates are sitting down with, like, content creators and smaller creators, because you're not even smaller creators, but just creators in general, instead of just big national news broadcasting like Fox, CNN, MSNBC. Because when you sit down with, like, actual content creators who have a certain audience, it reaches different types of people who usually won't even cast their who may usually not even vote, sort of say, or usually may not pay attention to politics as it is. But I do like the fact that he does sit down with, like, he just recently sat down with the Cartier family too. I saw that, and that was, like, very, like, beautiful to me. I love that, to see a presidential candidate sit down with them. That was a good decision. Whoever's on his team, you know, just reach out to me and we can set something up, you know what I'm saying? But no, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So we're gonna get started. Like I said before, we're not watching the whole thing. I already watched the whole thing too. It was an overall, I love the way he handled himself too. It was an overall good interview. But this portion is what I really want us to focus on today. Is the 15:25 mark. And
I am an independent. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican.
Cool.
I think that's important for the premise of the argument, because I know you did a lot of debating at Harvard. It's also, I also want to make it clear these are the same questions that I asked liberal Democrat Marianne Williamson. So I want to make sure that we put that out there as well, just
Fair
to kind
enough.
of set the foundation
I'm
for the
open
test.
to being humbled. Let's do this.
Okay, great. Let's go. So you mentioned, you know, the pride of being an American and how important it is to have pride in this country. I'm also a veteran, by the way,
Thank
for
you.
the United States Air Force. So when is it that you voted for the first time?
I voted in 2020.
Okay, so you're how old again?
I'm 37 years old.
So for how many years you sat around and did not get involved at all in any civic engagement? Is that my understanding?
A long time is the answer. And actually, I mean, that's what I wrote this book about. I'm not holding myself out as some sort of model. I'm actually offering myself as a self-reflection of my journey as a citizen. To much, right? As an adult, when you have kids, it changes your perspectives. I'm very honest about that. Absolutely.
Okay, no problem. So let's go deeper into the self-reflection. So you've sat around for, and sir, I'm being as respectful as I possibly can. Please don't take anything
And
a
you don't
hard
even
way.
have to be. And you don't even
Yeah.
have to be. So take it
Yeah.
off and let's go.
So you've been sitting around in the country that my ancestors built for about 20 years. Your parents came over as immigrants, brought you over. You made millions, according to your resume, off of this country, and you have absolutely not been involved in civics. One, not voting, and two, let me just ask, because I know you mentioned earlier you don't want to sit around at the debate and talk about accomplishments. Let's make the accomplishments pretty simple. In high school, were you ever a class president or take any leadership role? Because your opponent did, Chris Christie. He was the class president. So
Yeah, I
have you
did.
ever
I mean,
taken any leadership at all on
I have-
anything, or just?
Can I just correct a
So for one, not that it matters. I'm not a big Chris Christie fan either. But two, not that it's part of the conversation. I just had to put that out there. But for those who are needing a little bit of background, so this goes back to his point about the voting age, raising it to 25. So he stated that in order to vote prior to 25, you need to pass like the most basic civic test and or serve or something along those lines. So a lot of people were coming at Tess because they were like, and please forgive me if that's not her name, but I know it's something like Tess, something like that. They were saying that she came on him too strong. She came on him very aggressive. She came like very like defensive, sort of say. But this is where I tell people to put things in perspective a little bit. Number one, she's a former vet already. So she's put her life on the line for this country. So when you hear someone say who hasn't, and mind you, he did say in his defense, he did say he's not the walking example. But when you see someone who says younger people aren't even voting, they need to earn the right to vote, they're not showing up at the polls, raise the age to 25, when your first election in voting was 3 years ago, it's like, excuse me? So when you're saying we should be able to pass the most basic civic test to engage in voting, so I think right now what she's trying to put in perspective is like, okay, if we need to pass the most basic civic test to cast our ballot, you should be able to pass the most basic, you should be able to be like, have served the most basic level of like student council, vice president, whatever it may be, just to run for president. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like she's just trying to put things in perspective. Her delivery, some people disagree with, some people like she really wasn't that bad, but just to give context to the conversation.
couple factual things
Sure.
that are kind of important. My parents didn't bring me over to the country. I was
Okay,
born in
scratch
this
that off
country, and
then.
I'm proud
No,
of that.
No, I know you were born here in Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio.
You mentioned my
I'm
parents
saying your
brought me
parents
o-
were
You
immigrants.
said-
My apologies.
and that's all right. You said your parents brought you over to this country. I
Yeah,
thought I
my
would set
apologies.
that record straight.
I mean, they were immigrants, but let's
They
not
were
go down the
immigrants.
water
Oh,
hole.
no. We're not going to water. I just want to correct a couple facts. And then the other thing is,
You were born here in Ohio.
I was
correct?
born in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's right.
Right. So
Yeah.
you've been here your entire life. So the question
That's
is,
right.
did you take any leadership role in middle school, high school, class president?
I did,
I know
yeah,
you played tennis. What is it? Explain it to us.
Student council. But I think that this is yes, I have held leadership roles over my life, but those don't qualify me to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
That's
it kind of
just-
does.
Okay,
Well, it
well,
kind of does. Well,
That's
I'm
the
giving
only-
the.
So the thing about that is that like he can say it doesn't qualify him for what it does now. I personally don't think it does. It doesn't either, but I don't think you have to hold a role like student council or anything like that to run for president. But I think it puts something in perspective, because the same way he's saying it doesn't qualify him to run for one of the most highest positions in the country because he didn't serve president or vice president of his student council or class president or whatever. I can use that same argument and say a civics test doesn't qualify someone in order to cast their ballot. You get what I'm saying? It goes hand in hand. Yeah.
Yes, I'm the test
Okay,
administrator.
all right, there you go.
So it kind of does, because when you go from saying I want to go to the highest office,
And I'll tell
of
you,
the land-
I've led companies as well. Is the other leader?
Right,
The
well,
main leadership
right, but-
role I've played is and I want to talk about one early part of your premise that I also want to say,
Mm-hmm.
bring it to the country point. The other point, you use the word sitting around. I'm not somebody who's saying I want the next generation, my kids' generation, to have more civic duties when they graduate from high school and college than I did when I did. That being said, I wasn't sitting around. I've developed medicines, 5 of which are FDA-approved products today, one of which is a life-saving therapy in kids, 20 of whom die by the age of 3 if they're not treated, 70% of whom now live lives of a normal duration. another one for prostate cancer. So I don't
Well,
apologize
excuse
for
me,
making
sir.
contributions. But
Right. Well, I don't want you to filibuster that
No worries.
because
Just
that's
not
not
sitting-
the question that I asked. And I don't consider as a veteran, I'm talking about service. I'm not talking about what you
Civic
did for
service,
profit.
yeah.
I'm not talking.
Just putting out there, even though I'm not like the biggest like Vivek 2024 type of gal, he's very, very smart, very, very intelligent. Just have to give him his credit.
About what you paid people to do with
Yeah.
your
So
company.
I've
I'm
not
not talking
served-
about
I've
that
not served the country
because that
in the way
means
you
nothing
have.
to me.
You do
what I'm
realize
talking,
she
what
hasn't
I
been
am
able to ask a question. She's been trying to
Go
ask
for
a
it,
question,
yeah.
and you've been talking over her.
I'm
and
all
you-
ears.
We gave you the platform to let you say
Seems
what
a
I'm
you
all
little
said.
ears.
defensive.
I'm all ears. No, I was just correcting a couple
She hasn't had a chance
facts,
to
that's
ask a
all.
question yet. Every
Go
time
ahead,
she
Ted,
tries
ask
to
the
ask a
question.
question, you've been cutting her off. Go ahead, Ted.
I'm all ears.
Right. So your question. So my question again is: you're trying to your goal is to raise the standard, and you're saying you want people to believe in country, and you want people to have civic engagement. And sir, I just find it very telling that you haven't had any civic engagement at all, and haven't been at all. And when I say sit around, I don't mean you haven't done anything. I'm talking about in regards to service. Because one thing about political office, the same way that you want to change how people look at politics and look at this country, I want to change how people look at politicians. And when I see that someone hasn't did anything at all to be of service to mankind, to take a leadership role, it's not good enough to just be on city student council. Were you a leader? All of that applies. Have you been able to get anybody in the room at any time, from a high school gymnasium to Ohio?
I think the way that she's talking, I feel like people get blinded on how someone says something rather than what they're actually saying. Because when you think about it, she makes sense. Like, she's actually making sense. She has a point, to say the least. Like, she's saying, like, you're running for the biggest seat of the office. You've just said that you want to raise the standard. What within your past, up until your 37 years of life, he looks good for 37, by the way. I thought he was younger. I thought he was like 35, 36. Well, that's about the same as 37. But like, I thought he was younger for some reason. You're saying that you're trying to raise this standard, but it's like, do you meet the standard that you are raising? That's a question that he has to ask himself, because you're going to get questioned about that, even on the debate stages. Even he's doing good. He's doing pretty good for who he is in the polls. Obviously, when the debate stages come, that's going to be like his moment to, like, you know, get more support from voters, because it's Donald Trump is not, he's not an easy person to, Donald Trump will hit below the belt and he doesn't care. So with that being said, I just think that it's important to keep that into consideration. Like, if you want to raise that standard, you got to make sure you meet that standard that you're trying to raise as well.
Republican leadership there to now, have you been able to get anybody in a room to believe in this vision? I don't agree with a lot of your vision statement, but I do know you've been going around having these discussions and getting everybody emotionally worked up to talk about vision and debate. But I want to get to the practical. You're trying to go from preschool to president of the United States. You're skipping over city council, county council, mayor, governor. You want to go straight to the top. So my question is, this a PR? Is this for the PR, the perception of reality? Or can you point to any leadership where you've been able to get people to believe in what you're talking about that they're not paid to do on any of these vision statements that you have? If not, then to me it's a moot point, because you're holding a standard that you haven't met yourself.
At Domino's, order carryout online or by phone and get any one-topping pizza for $7.99 each.
So if you're only going to count government service, you're
No,
absolutely
not government
right.
service.
Okay.
Student council in the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th. Were you
Yeah.
a leader? Did you do anything to rally anybody? Did you fight for better lunch? I did in the 6th grade with Miss Harris.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about government. I can go all the way back from the 5th grade every year, sir, because people who are in service to this country, if you're going to go around saying you want people to believe in this country that I signed up to die for, then I want to make sure that you're holding that same standard. So not government, not political. Let's not get it confused. I'm saying, have you did anything of service that we can point to say he is a good leader, like Chris? And I'm not even a fan of Chris Christie, but he was the student council president in high school. So have you done anything of service besides yourself that has not benefited yourself? It's just a simple question.
So the acts of service that I have performed are small, so small that I don't even want to talk about them to boast. But yes, have I volunteered for this country? Yes, I have. I've always
So,
been
like,
interested
well,
in
let's talk
healthcare.
about it. It's okay to talk about
Bethesda
the small
North. I
things.
mean,
I think
these
that
are small
matters.
things, right? But thank you.
No, well, let's just mention it. Just for
Bethesda
fun.
North Hospital.
So it's really a no?
No, it's not a no. It's just something I don't like boasting about. I
Well,
volunteer.
we're not boasting.
Yeah.
It's an
Not
interview.
boasting.
You're
There we go.
boasting on your vision and everything else.
I think
you
one of the
boasted on
things-
the millions of dollars that you made. So let's just throw it out. So
I
in sixth
actually
grade, I'll give
didn't.
you an example. I'll help you out. In sixth grade, Miss
I'll
Harris,
tell you- I'll tell-
Miss Harris
I can-
was Let me give you an example because maybe you're confused. In the sixth grade, Miss Harris was snatching papers from everybody in the class.
I feel like there's so much tension in this conversation though. Like even when I first watched, I was like, there is a lot of like tension in this conversation. And I think for her, this is why I say you have to put yourself in other people's shoes. Like when you put your life on the line for this country and someone comes out with certain policies and says and tries to raise that standard, like to her, I'm not trying to speak for her, but like she's probably coming from like, you must have some nerve to really expect A, B, and C when you haven't even reached that. You get what I'm saying? Like, I love, like, this is why I'm trying to be fair too, because I love how Vivek, he holds himself in the conversation, not only with her, but with DJ NB and Charlamagne and so forth. Like, he stands on his 10 toes type stuff, even though I disagree with a lot of it. But I really like how, like, some people said it was, she was coming in too strong. This is what we need. Like, when you're trying to hold the highest position in this country, one of the highest positions in this country, you have to know, you have to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed. Like, this is what we need. Like, not only with Vivek Ramaswamy, we need this with Trump. We need someone like this to question Biden. We need people like her, because they're too comfortable. Not like specifically him, I'm saying like politicians in general, they get too comfortable.
So me as a 10-year-old, I went to the principal and said, I'm tired of Miss Harris snatching papers, and I organized the students around getting Miss Harris to stop snatching papers. Now, there was a consequence for that. I got suspended for 5 days for talking back, and I got in trouble. I got a spanking, and I was on punishment for months and months. But that is a simple way of organizing people. So I want you to kind of boast about it the way you did the millions of dollars and said what you did with the pharmaceutical companies. What leadership can you point to that you've been able to rally anybody around anything that is of service that you did not pay anybody to do? I think that's important for the next president of the United States.
Sure. So I've always been drawn to healthcare. That's why I ended up founding companies in that space. When I was in high school, part of what drew me into it was that I was a volunteer at a local hospital. I actually became the leader of that group of volunteers that actually discharged women who had recently given birth. That was it. Nothing big to it.
Did you do anything we can point to stand out?
But I want to say something about that, because I say that in the book. If I'm being really honest, why did I do that in high school? A part of the motivation, I'll be just brutally honest with you, was that's actually what allows you to get into a good college when you graduate. Is
right.
You want
So
to check
it was
the box
about,
of community
so it was
service.
about you.
So there was
it was about self.
So there's and I'm admitting that in a way that very few other people do. But I got to be honest about it. That was a big part of why I did it.
Yeah,
Then when
it
I
was about
graduate-
self, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to give it back to the guys.
if I
I'm
can-
going to be honest about it with you.
Yep.
Leadership is not about self.
I agree
And
with you on that. I
What
agree
I
with you
just
on
heard,
that.
what I just heard is that everything is about you. And to be honest with you, this is just a PR campaign, sir. To be honest with you, and I think you're trying to go further to the right because you want the Republicans to accept you as a man of color. And I think the only way you think you can do that is to be so extreme.
I appreciate your
with
opinion.
with your positions, and I think you.
That part I disagree with her on. I don't think he's trying to be right to be accepted. Because I've listened to some of his other interviews and stuff. I feel like he's actually like on the right side. He's an actual Republican, because he does correlate his beliefs and everything back to his faith base, and like how this country is in lost of like God and faith and the roots and stuff. So I feel like he's actually a Republican. Now, do I think he truly believes he is going to win the presidential primary? Do I truly believe he's going to win the primary? I don't think he truly believes in himself that he's going to win, but I think, I don't know, because it's really, really hard, because like I feel like he thinks he has a chance, but I don't think he truly believes that he can actually beat Trump in a primary and then go and beat Biden, if Biden is the nominee, because RFK is not doing too bad, but, well, it is kind of doing bad, but it's still early. But Yeah, I disagree with her on that part. I don't think he's doing it. I don't think he registered as a Republican to be accepted by the right. I think he actually is a Republican.
Need to do
Just
a little
from
bit more
personal
work
research.
in service. I'll give it back to you
Let
guys.
me
You failed the
ask,
test, by the
because she
way.
did ask me a question, and then you guys said you wanted to hear a response, but I think I heard an expression of opinion. So just I want to make sure you're all done before I respond to it.
No,
all
just
set?
wanted to say that even then, I would still want you to point out, even at the hospital, something that you did that made you stand out on when actually taking a leadership role. But you already answered it. You said you did it because it was a motivation to get in college.
Exactly.
Which means
and
it was
I'm being
about
very
you.
honest about that. But
everything has been about you. So as
Let me-
a veteran,
let me
as
tell
a
you
veteran,
something. I appreciate
it's very
this.
hard for me to follow leaders that make everything about them. So you might want to work on that because it's a lot of veterans and Republicans. So you might want to work on that talking point and maybe do some volunteering while you're on the campaign trail. I'm going to give it back to
I don't think she's, and I personally don't think she's too aggressive. Like, I saw that word be flown around. I generally don't think she's aggressive. Like, y'all don't know what aggressive is. Y'all just be seeing someone with passion and just label anybody aggressive that has passion. I really like how I really feel like she just doesn't take BS. I don't know much about her. Like, I watch Breakfast Club here and there, and I'll see her because she'll be like a guest here and there. But like, I don't know much about her. But I don't think she's aggressive. Like, I really feel like we need that type of energy with candidates.
I want to be respectful. Want to make sure you got everything you wanted to on the table before I
I
respond
got
to
plenty.
that.
If this was just us, it would be a lot more on
You
the
guys
table.
tell me. I'm the guest on
go
your
ahead,
show.
go
You
ahead,
tell me
go
when
ahead.
I'm good to speak.
Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead.
He said, I'm the guest on your show. That's that slick shade. Go ahead. He said, I'm the guest on your show. Just let me know when I can speak. Okay.
Sure? You sure about that? If we're good.
Yeah, we're sure.
So I think there's a different worldview that we have. And I think the worldview is how one actually makes contributions in a country. I do not believe that there's a separate category of just if you're serving the country and then if you're acting in self-interest, that that's somehow sinful or wrong. I reject that vision. To the contrary, I think capitalism is the best system known to man to lift people up from poverty. I deeply respect and I thank you for your service to this country. I'm grateful for it. I haven't served the country in the way that you have. But I think that the way you get ahead in capitalism, how did I develop a multi-billion-dollar biotech company? It was by developing medicines that save people's lives.
A lot of people say capitalism causes poverty.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I disagree with that. I think that capitalism demands that you provide something to someone that helps them more than you're actually charging them for it. That's the only way.
That's
the
a
tried and
business
true
model,
way for you
sir.
get-
That's
It
not
is a business
service.
model. It's not. I'm not
That's
saying
not
it's
service.
I'm saying it's
But
having
see,
an impact on a
An
society.
elected official is service. That's the disconnect
That's right. So
that you're
now,
missing that they didn't
I'm
teach you.
moving on to there are phases of our lives where we do different things.
Well,
I've
you're
been-
moving straight all the way up to President of the United States.
You know, I don't
Let's
view it as a
start first.
hierarchy. I don't view it as a hierarchy. I don't believe in hierarchies. The hierarchy is the way the
that's the pro-
bureaucracy works. I don't believe in so we have a
I
difference in
know
opinion.
you also
She gotta let him finish, though. Like, that's the only thing. Like, you have to let him finish.
don't believe in service, and that's where we're having a disconnect.
Well, I disagree with you on that.
You know,
I just disagree with you on that.
I do think it's whack that you're proposing to revoke voting rights for 18 to 24-year-olds unless they meet certain qualifications, but you never exercised.
That, I agree. That's the point that I was making earlier, y'all. That's the main thing about him that I'm just like, I just can't, like, vote. Even if I was a Republican, I just couldn't vote for him because of that. Like, I think that's really, in Charlemagne's words, like, whack. Like, just to...
You're right.
Well,
For so long.
most young people don't, is the whole point. So,
that's not
Charlamagne, let me
true.
ask you a
And
question.
that's a cop-out, too. Like, when you look at the numbers and people keep continuing to say most young people aren't voting, but saying young people, insinuating like Gen Z's, like that 18 to 26, 25-year-old range. In reality, we are voting. Like, we're voting in good numbers, too. Obviously, there's always room for improvement. But when you really look at it, it's really like the older millennials, mid-millennials that are, like, falling in polling numbers, like, that aren't showing up in the polls. So, like, I think people just say that as a cop-out because we actually are.
Do you think the most...
Matter of fact, the only reason why these campaigns exist and are still, like, running, not his, but just campaigns in general, is because of those 18 to 25, 26-year-olds who are running these campaigns, who are doing the grassrooting, who are doing the social media, who is doing the digital marketing. Those people are the ones that keep your campaigns afloat. So to just go back and say, like, we're the reasons why, like, y'all ain't showing up to the poll. Like, we are. We're showing up not only in the polls, but in the campaign supporting. Like,
What voter turnouts have been over the last couple elections, few elections.
They
actually.
still voted at a very low rate. But let me ask you a question.
what's a low-
what do you think
low
about high
rate?
school students being required to pass the civics test? What's your perspective on that?
The one that you proposed?
The one that every immigrant has to pass in order to enter the country. If every high school student has to pass that before they graduate, what's your take on that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Okay, good. Now let me tell you something about the law as it exists today. Men in this country, not women, but men are required by law to register with the Selective Service, age 18 to 25. That's the draft. We don't have a draft, but men have to register. If you don't, they put you in prison. At least they can. It's a criminal offense if you don't. My view is I would decriminalize that. I don't like the government telling you what you can and cannot do. That's not the American way. But if you want to enjoy the civic privilege of voting, then I think it is perfectly legitimate to say you have to at least know something about the country or have served that country, one or the other. Absolutely. Now, I think that what do we actually care about, right? What do we? I mean, we can do the personal attack thing.
I'm sorry. I disagree 110%. I don't think that should be held over someone's head why they should or shouldn't cast a ballot. You got to realize we all come from different backgrounds, different stories, different testimonies. Like, what to use like a civic test as an example to measure if someone's qualified to cast their ballot, it does not sit right with me. It just doesn't sit right with me. I think I don't know. That's not the American way. I think,
We care
It's
about
not
the
personal
country.
attacks,
We
though.
care about
Voting
the
is the
country.
cornerstone of democracy, though.
Voting is the cornerstone
That
of
you didn't
democracy.
exercise.
I have
Well,
not.
sir,
Yeah,
excuse
that's
me.
right. And you know what? Here's the thing. Here's the thing that's
Respectfully,
different.
sir,
Is, yep.
sir, excuse me, because this is important. We have to pause it. This is not a personal attack.
That's okay.
This is you, and I know that as a Republican, you are certainly not soft. So this is not a personal attack.
Yeah,
this
I'm
is
okay with
asking
attacks,
about.
too.
This is about asking about your background and how it correlates, how it's relevant to saying you're going to serve this country because. President is actually
So I have been an
serving
open book
the
in the
country.
last
No,
3 years.
Yeah, I know,
Absolutely.
and I'm going page by page.
And
but
I'm
it's not
saying
an
that I
attack.
have not-
I'm gonna let you finish.
Yep.
But I want to be clear, it's not an attack.
Okay.
Because you've been an open book, but that doesn't
Totally.
mean I have to like what's on the page.
That's fair
But
enough.
it's not an attack. I'm just reading the book.
Yep.
And so when I hear somebody say you need to get to either pass this test or do some type of service to the country, and I spend hours looking. You were in the Phi Beta Kappa. Did you have a leadership role in college, the honor roll? When somebody sets service as the standard and they've done no service except to themselves, that's a fair question. It's a question. And you just
So I've been on the. I mean,
I'm not gonna lie. She has a point though. That's what I was saying earlier, y'all. Like, that's why, like, when I'm watching this, I always try to be fair, y'all. Y'all see my videos. I always try to be fair, despite what my party affiliation is, because my party affiliation is not my personality. So I always try to be fair. But when you set a standard to something you don't personally or may not have personally reached, it raises eyebrows. And I don't think he should have said that was a personal attack, because I feel like that switches the narrative. I don't think she was trying to like personally attack him. I think she's just like, so what's up type of vibe. Like, she just wants the answers. And I don't think it's, because when you say personal attack, you make the conversation personal. You're making it as if she is asking you hard questions because you are Vivek Ramaswamy. I watched the interview with her and Marianne Williamson. She asked Marianne Williamson some hard questions too. I'm pretty sure if Trump was in front of her face, she would ask some really hard questions as well. Like, even Joe Biden, she would probably ask some hardest questions with Joe Biden. Like, I think using the word personal attack was kind of like, but she had.
I was
not
on
an
high.
attack.
I was on high school student council. Yes, absolutely.
Were you a lead? Were you a leader?
I was a vice president of my high school student council. Absolutely. I was the
Okay.
president of the
Okay,
National
great.
Honor Society. I can go down the list. It's just that
That's
these are
what I
not-
was asking you to do. Go down the
Absolutely.
list. But
So
proceed.
I was a president of the National Honor Society. I was the vice president of my student council. I was a lead amongst the volunteers at the hospital where I served growing up. I was actually a leader in volunteer research over the summers. From my senior
But
year.
all of that, but you already admitted all of that was to get into college.
Not
but
all
go
of
ahead.
it, but I am admitting it. I think that
I know
it's
that's
important.
self-service, though. I just do
A
you
lot of
understand the
that-
difference
a
between
lot of-
self-service
and
and
I
service?
think the reality is, and I think we just all have to be more honest. When
We
many
do.
high school students,
But I will say this, as someone, you can, let me make sure. Okay, I gotta make sure it's still recording, y'all, because y'all know I be talking a lot. So I see what she's saying. There's self-service and there's service, but also we have to realize the world that we live in. Your self-service can also do service, if that makes sense. For me, my service stems from, I started service young. I was like 11, 12, volunteering and so forth. Even now, as I mentor kids and stuff, like that's service to me. But I'm not gonna sit here and lie. My internships, that was a form of self-service as well, because not only was I interning for these like the law firms and so forth that was helping cases and helping people. Yeah, I liked what I was doing as a form of service, but also I was there for myself because I needed the credit to graduate. So like it's a form, like I see the point of service, and then there's your self-service can be a service to others while serving yourself. So like that, we can't pretend like that doesn't
are
exist.
serving today. Not all of them, but I think let's smoke it out. I don't like that structure where we actually
No,
mix
and I don't like the
service with
structure.
self-interest.
And
So-
I don't like the structure of somebody saying somebody need to give service as a veteran. I don't like the structure of somebody
That's
going
fair,
to the
and we can
highest
disagree.
office of the land and have not served anybody at any time unless it was self-serving. So this is where we just have two different ideas. And I know your
here's
goal
my
was to come here
perspective.
and get into.
Here's
yeah,
my
I know.
perspective.
That's why
Let
we
me-
got
let me
different
sh-
Remember,
perspectives.
two guys, he got to leave in 5 minutes. I know.
Hold on, I wanna-
I'll let them wrap
Yeah.
up.
I know.
Let me just say one thing is here's my vision of the run for presidency, and this is why I say I'm an open book, is my job is to make sure people in this country know who I am and what I stand for. And I think that very few politicians on either party actually get that job done. So what I say is I'm an open book about who I am and what I stand for. Whether the people of this country want to vote for me, that's their question, not mine. That's their job to determine, not mine. And you're free not to vote for me. I expect you won't, and that's okay. But I'm doing my job in the 3 books I've written over the last year, in the conversation.
I'm gonna pause it here. If y'all want a part 2, y'all let me know. But yeah. So overall thoughts, concerns, comment down below. Like I said before, my overall thoughts on Vivek Ramaswamy. I think he's very intelligent, very smart. Disagree with him on that voting thing. I already told y'all. But I feel like he does try to find common ground. I like the way he expresses his thoughts, expresses his platform. I don't think he is going, as of right now, I should say, I'm not going to take away his chances, but as of right now, I just don't think he's strong enough yet to take Trump out the primary. Trump's primary platform is so strong. Not primary platform. Trump's overall platform is very, very strong. Last time I checked, I think he was at 43%. And Vivek is, I want to say he's 3rd or 4th, because I know DeSantis is at that 22 margin. But yeah, this interview was very interesting. I don't think it was fair for people to call Tess aggressive. I don't think she's being aggressive. I think she knows, like, for so long in this country, and I agree, like, for so long in this country, we get so many politicians from different levels of the office that get away with so much BS because we don't hold them accountable. Like, they're too comfortable. So she is going to set those questions out and ask them in a way that makes you so uncomfortable that you have no way or no other option but to tell the truth. And I really want to see her. I want Breakfast Club to even bring more candidates on there so she can question more. I really want Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to go on here. I'm very, like, watch my last video. I'm very interested in Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Yeah. But shout out to Vivek Ramaswamy for, like, holding his ground. Like, one thing I will say, when fresh faces come into politics, I get so excited because I feel like DC recycles the same politicians over and over again. So when fresh faces come, I'm just like, yes, somebody new. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the comments down below. Whatever party you're registered under, just comment down below who has your eye. Who are you eyeing out? Your top 2 candidates. What are your personal thoughts with Vivek Ramaswamy and so forth? Make sure you follow me on my social media. Like, comment, subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you're notified whenever I post a new video. And that's it. This is your girl, Udawak, and we are watching Connecting People with Policy. Deuces, y'all.